we wanted to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We wanted the community to come together. We didn't want it to be a black thing. We didn't want it to be a brown thing. We wanted it to be a thing where all individuals could be involved, because that's what Martin Luther King stood for. He stood for all. He didn't stand for one. And what he wanted to do was ensure that all had a voice, that the oppressed had a voice, and that the oppressor, in a sense, would listen to those who did not have a voice. So what we're doing today is we're starting a season of celebration, and it's a celebration of people coming together to talk about different ideas, to talk about different movements, to talk about even the environment, what we can do as individuals, what we can do as groups, what we can do as African Americans, what we can do as Hispanics, what we can do as Caucasians even. It's about, literally it's about everyone, and it's about coming together. And this is how it literally starts. It starts with grassroots efforts, and hopefully from there, great things will come out of these efforts.
What do you think of the people that try to take advantage of peaceful things like this?
Well, you know, and that's one of the things that we discussed. That we didn't want it to be. We didn't want it to be something where someone could take advantage of. We didn't want it to be something where someone could be taken advantage of. Quite often, an individual will look to a group and just see it as numbers, and because of that, what we wanted to do is say, yes, we have numbers. However, we have our own ideas. We have our own solutions. We have our own coalitions, and what we wanted to do is just ensure that everyone had a voice and that everyone's voice was heard. Some people take advantage of it simply by not allowing all voices to be heard. They believe that their voice is the only voice, and their voice is the voice that should be listened to. However, we feel that each one of us, it's the individuals that make up a group, and each one of those individuals in that group has their own individual voice that should be heard.
Now, what do you think of those that use the name like Black Lives Matter to kind of do a reverse thing of what was intended? Like those that are saying, kill those who are oppressing us?
Well, I think what they're doing is, in a sense, they have their voice, but sometimes a voice like that isn't a voice of the times. There are times when you have to take a stand, but the stand you take is determined, or the stand you take can determine the outcome. So when you talk in terms of Black Lives Matter, let's just use them as an example. When you talk in terms of Black Lives Matter, people also thought the same thing of the Black Panther movement. They thought, okay, the Black Panthers are a group of individuals whose sole destiny or whose sole purpose was to overthrow the government. The Black Panthers came together similar to why the Black Lives Matter came together. They wanted to have, or wanted to be, a voice for the community. They wanted to be a voice for that part of the community that was not heard. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes it takes somewhat of a shake-up for an individual's voice to be heard. Thank you, sir.
Very well.
All right, what would you want to say to those on the opposing end of this movement?
What I want to say to them is we're not opposed. We're not opposed. We want to join you. We want to come together as one. We all have something in common, and I don't want to be politically correct, but that's, you know, basically nothing more than the pursuit of happiness. When it boils down to it, Yeah, that's everyone's bottom line. That's, like I was saying when we first started, that's everyone's agenda. Everyone is after the pursuit of happiness. And some people just go about pursuing it using different methods. Others believe that I cannot be happy if those around me are happy. And it's simply because I do not believe in their happiness. I do not believe what makes them happy is acceptable. And sometimes that's sexual preferentation. Sometimes that's, racial orientation. But I think what occurs is, the bottom line is, like I said, everybody is basically in search or pursuing a sense of happiness.
So do you think that racial tensions are better than they were when MLK was doing his marches, or do you think they're in a similar situation?
I think they're in a similar situation, and what has occurred is they have been, simply because of social media, more things have come to light. Me as an African American, I know about police community relations and how they've historically, depending on where you are, they've always been at a tipping point. And what has occurred, social media has allowed that tipping point to be viewed, is basically what it is. Now, with that being said, they can change. Times, like people, can change. And I think what has occurred is, it's been brought to a forefront is what has occurred. And social media's, in some senses, it's helped, and in some senses, it's hurt. It all depends on what and whose optics you view it through. There's some people out there that are always saying, well, this has occurred, but let's not rush to judgment. Others will say, it's on tape. What's not to rush to judgment on? It's there. So what we have to believe is that you have to have there has to be a happy medium somewhere, that people have to agree to hear, to see, to review, and believe all the facts. There's some individuals out there that say, well, the fact is this is what occurred. An individual's life was in danger. Thus, because of that, step 1, step 2, step 3 was taken. Other individuals will say the life wasn't in danger. Why was step 3 taken? Why was step 3 a means to all end? And how did we get to step 3? And did we go to step 3 immediately? Did we bypass step 1, step 2?
So do you think by having then the police presence here in support of the march, it'll help create better tensions and help create support among the community?
Oh yeah, we have a with the exception, it's just like all police forces have said, we're all human, and there are going to be apples. There are going to be good apples, there are going to be bad apples. It's nothing more than a reflection of society. There are good apples in society, there are bad apples in society. But what we have to be able to do is separate them out. Now, our relationship with law enforcement in the county, don't get me wrong, there's some issues. There's always issues. However, what we want to be able to do is discuss them, talk about them, and come to some type of solutions, some mutually agreed upon solutions in terms of law enforcement, what occurs, how it should occur. Also, with that, citizens have a responsibility too. Everybody wants to say, well, okay, law enforcement this, law enforcement that. However, citizens literally share in policing responsibilities. And what we have to do is to understand our role in law enforcement. Everyone believes, or quite often it is believed, that law enforcement is about police enforcing the law. And sometimes, people have to understand that, yes, law enforcement enforces the law. However, when people break the law, there are consequences for breaking the law. And so, police and community relationships, people would say, well, they're at a tipping point right now. And I would venture to say, if you look at what has occurred between the general community, and not just our community, but what's occurred in the community, is sometimes slanted. Sometimes it's slanted toward policing. Sometimes it's slanted toward citizens. I think quite often it all depends on what end of law enforcement you end up on. And what I think has to be done is this. Everybody hears that, walk a mile in my shoes. I think one of the best things that can occur is that police, community policing. Take a ride, go on a ride along with an officer. Volunteer to it's difficult, but you can literally volunteer to assist law enforcement. You have community relations that sometimes go awry. You have individuals, just at the Trayvon Martin issue. I mean, you had a citizen who, quote unquote, was policing his community, and this is what occurred. That's probably an extreme of a citizen policing.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's an extreme of a citizen policing his community, but things like that. That is not the first occurrence of that type. Now, an individual ended up losing their lives, which magnified it. But there are always individuals that look at it as, here's my opportunity to police. Here's my opportunity to change what I believe to be a wrong to a right. And sometimes that individual that's attempting to make that change is wrong himself or herself. But police and community relations, they're always evolving. And when they don't evolve, then there is some stagnation.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.